All right, good evening. I'm Colton. I'm a little pissed right now because I just recorded a 12-minute video and it didn't save. So now I gotta do it all again. So, oh my god. Question one. Differentiate between what our authors discuss as the nature of ethics, business ethics, communication ethics, and organizational communication ethics. And if I'm talking a little fast, I apologize again. I just recorded this and it did not save. It wouldn't let me save for some reason. So, real quick, I mentioned this in my other video. I'm just going to hit the question one really long, and then the other ones I'm just kind of going to blow through them because this first question is like 8 minutes long. So, as the authors mentioned in the book, nature of ethics is basically the good, the bad, and I'm going to say the ugly, even though they don't say the ugly. That people are characterized throughout their life because they were taught that from either, their parents, the culture, the values, their beliefs, etc. So nature of ethics is valued, as the environment as well as the culture of which surrounds that individual, like their beliefs, etc. Even religion. So I'm gonna get my chair out of the way. So business ethics can be summed up by the typology that the authors give or relate for it. Within a business, the ethical lapses, including stealing, lying, fraud, cheating, bribes, espionage, decadence, interpersonal abuse, organizational abuse, rule violations, unethical acts, and moral balance are all those typology bounds or typology lapses for them, or what makes up the business communications. So, communication ethics is that of which is good and bad through communication or exchanging of information. So this can be, a derogatory term said towards something can be an unethical communication act. This includes a sender and a receiver, obviously, and of which the message from the source can be rejected, evaluated, or so forth in order to determine whether it's right and wrong. Last is organizational communication ethics, in which this has to deal with coercive, destructive, intrusive, deceptive, secretive, and manipulative messages to and from an individual. So this could be, a higher up just saying, just lying to some individual to get them to do some sort of mundane task, like, hey, I need you to go get this, and then while you're out there, can you just go pick me up some coffee? And then if they don't want to do it, like, oh, you're trying to get fired? Something out of the blue where it's just, using your power to do something that you shouldn't be doing. So now where do these seem congruent is one of the questions attached to this. All of them have to do with good, the bad, and the ugly, as I mentioned earlier. So within a culture defines what is good and bad. So if we take what we have learned from the culture, we should be able to apply these to each of the groups, nature, business, communication, and organizational. They're incongruent or inconsistent with one another in terms of what makes them good and bad. For instance, communication doesn't really have anything to do with like stealing or cheating. I mean, you can't really cheat communication. So I don't know what an example of cheating communication or stealing communication would be. Even though they're both ethically bad, they don't. It's just an example here. So however, it's still defined. So, and then one of the questions for that, or the last one for that, is cite your text in discussion and identify real life ethic cases within last 6 months as evidence of your response. So, I'll have a link below. It talks about Amazon. This was actually within the last year, so this is actually a year from to date. But what Amazon was doing was they were willing to pay workers that didn't want to work there, or they didn't like the environment, because they're probably, they're unethical, or they just didn't, like I said, like the environment. So they were paying them $2,000 to $5,000 to quit the job, like on the spot. So, and that was to like keep the good people in and get rid of the bad people. So That's probably like one of the most ethical things I've actually seen from a business or a company do. And that was in Seattle, Washington. Is they were doing some layoffs, and they were like, "Hey, we'll pay people to quit right now. $2,000, $5,000, and people would take it." And those aren't the employees that they were looking for. They're looking for those hardworking employees, those ones that actually like to work for that company. So, so since that was within the last year and not within the last 6 months, I actually found one within the last 6 months. And this one was actually last month, March 9th, 2019. A video game just came out recently. It's called Anthem, in which that company had terrible leadership behavior. And so they were really unethical. And there's several YouTube videos, articles, and other things out right now that actually just recently came out within the last 4 days that show how many people have not only quit from that company, the company's Electronic Arts, so EA, and the response from BioWare, which BioWare is a part of Electronic Arts. They're actually hired from EA. I don't have any links right now. I can find one if anyone's interested. They just leave a comment and I'll find the YouTube video. One of the YouTube videos is like 48 minutes long. It's pretty interesting. A lot of curse words, so that's why I'm not going to link it. But yeah. All right, next question. What are the ethics as the authors understand them, as you've understood them up to now, and which ethical framework or frameworks, as discussed in the text, do you most closely align with, and why? As the authors understand them, it's the values and ideals of which a person learns from the culture and chooses to identify themselves or creates a personality from within them, or creates a personality based on what they've learned from the culture and their beliefs, or that religion. So basically, the good and the bad showing knowledge and how to make choices in certain situations. And that's on page 94. In terms of framework and where I believe I am, I think I'm just purely ethic. I'm just all ethical. I don't have any conscious, or I can't say I don't have any conscious decisions to do unethical things. I do have those, like, man, I would punch him in the face right now, but I don't do things like that. So, yeah, I'm not unethical in any way. I don't do any subjective tasks where like I want to do something ethical and then it turns into bad. Like I don't do anything bad that once relates into good. I usually just do the right thing. So, and I think that also has to deal with my military background. For being in the Marines for 5 years, they teach you JJ did tie buckle, which is a short acronym for judgment, justice, decisiveness, integrity. And obviously the last E is ethics. So, but there's another E in there for endurance. So, next question. In what ways do the video regarding ethics and our course text overlap? In what ways do they differ? Please cite the text and your video in response. So the video talks about ethics being defined as cultural values and behaviors within that culture. The book also talks about how ethics are defined within the cultural values and beliefs, which is pretty much where the book talks about it too. So I think that's where they pretty much overlap. However, they differ because the book talks about what is exactly defined through ethics in communication, organization, business, and nature, as to where the video, they pretty much associate that it's already defined. I mean, they touch it within like the first minute. They don't go over it like the book does. The video talks about how one will struggle to recognize what true ethical acts are and what true unethical acts are, unless you work in like accounting, or I do believe the other one that they mentioned was a law firm. So, and I believe that's where they pretty much differ. Although the book does talk about ways to look for unethical and ethical ways, or unethical tasks and communication and stuff, but they just give you a general idea of what those are with like small examples after defining. And last question, what area do you believe the authors missed or got wrong in their discussion of ethics? So be specific and cite your text in your response. And it's way easier the first video, let me tell you. So I think the authors got wrong with defining subjective ethics on page 68. I think they did a good job everywhere else. I don't think that they did anything else wrong. But the authors define it as doing good and then having bad end or leads to a bad outcome. However, if you look at uslegal.com, subjective ethics is more to be referred to as an absolute or a constant standard of which like what is right and wrong. But it's also defined as usually subjective ethics is the focus on one development's self-consciousness, not so much doing good and then having a bad outcome. So usually they just they foresee the good, I guess, and then maybe the bad happens. Not quite sure, but I think that the more uslegal.com definition is more precise in this way. So the authors make it sound like subjective ethics is you have full intentions to do good and then the bad just happens, which I can see where they're close and similar. So, and I'll have a link in the description for that one too. So, but thanks for watching my following video, I guess, since the first one I couldn't save, and I'll see you guys in class. Thank you.